Hi guys, this weekend during Comic Con, we got our first teaser for the new Netflix series, The Defenders. It was a fairly artistic trailer that did not really show us anything. Essentially, we just saw some clippings being ripped that ended up writing Defend. And we got some voiceover, some narration by the actor playing the character Styx in the series. I already made the classic version of the Defenders, so not this time let's make the Netflix version. Obviously, we have to start with our friend Daredevil, whose classic costume is pretty simple to reproduce. You put a bunch of slimline stuff together, put it all red, and put a big D on his chest, and you have Daredevil. Personally, I always preferred the yellow version of the costume. Essentially, it has a lot more contrast, so I always thought it looked better. It could be also that that's the how I discovered the character while he was drawn by the legendary Wallace Wood. But I always enjoyed that version of the costume. But I'm aware that I'm probably one of the three people alive who actually like the yellow Daredevil costume. For the TV version, it was a bit challenging. Essentially, there's a whole truckload of different chests that I could have used that are essentially a bunch of armored plates put together, which is pretty much the look they've tried to recreate in the TV series. Essentially, they're trying to show it as if it's a whole bunch of armor plates put together to give the character protection. So there's a bunch of different styles you could use for that. And just for the fun of it, let's include the movie version of Daredevil, played by the what is now Batfleck in the DC universe. Essentially, it's pretty similar to the red version you first saw, but the main difference is that I went with a jacket that has the D on the side, and it sort of kind of recreates the look. And the 90s gave us a pretty abominable version of Daredevil's costume. Essentially, at some point, they were trying to reinvent all the looks of the various Marvel characters. I guess they were trying to make them more modern or more cool looking or more extreme, probably. And this is more or less what we ended up with. And next we have Iron Fist. For Iron Fist, it's a bit difficult to try to get the exact look of the character. Essentially, we would need a shirt that's open in the front with a big yellow collar, and there's no such thing, sadly. Or there's the Abracadabra shirt you're going to see a bit later, but it didn't work. We couldn't have the essentially the dragon tattoo on the front. To fake out the dragon tattoo, I went with the circle with the wings. And also at some point they had a red version, which was pretty much the same version as the green version. All they did was change the colors. And later on, instead of having him with an open shirt showing the tattoo, they gave him a costume with a yellow emblem on it. Here we have Luke Cage, also known as Power Man, and as you can see, he has the Abracadabra shirt, which looks all kinds of awesome. I wish the color was a bit bigger, but it's as good as we can get. So and we can recreate a pretty close version of the 70s version of the character, which was all kinds of awesome. But later on, they tried to reinvent the character at least a few times. At some point, it was called Cage, and they tried to revamp his costume in a more 90s kind of way. But later down the line, they pretty much, as if they pretty much thrown in the towel, and they gave him like a yellow T-shirt and a pair of jeans, and that was the new Power Man or the new Luke Cage actually. By that point, he was no longer a Power Man, and on the TV show, they just gave him again a T-shirt and jeans. And next we have the Punisher, who was all kinds of awesome in the second season of Daredevil. Holy crap, was he good! As you can see, we can pretty much recreate a pretty faithful look of the character. But then again, a black suit with a white skull on it pretty much screams the Punisher. Heck, nowadays you cannot create a character with a skull on his chest without people calling it a Punisher ripoff. So that's pretty much all you really need to do to recreate a character. And later in the comics, they tried to make his look more realistic by adding a trench coat to his classic look. At some point, trench coats became sort of the modern equivalent of a cape in superhero comics. And they tweaked the details somewhat through the years. Sometimes they would get rid of the white boots and give him black boots. The white belt would become a black belt and all stuff like that. And then what was going to happen happened. They gave him a t-shirt and a pair of pants, and they just slapped a skull on the t-shirt, and that was the Punisher. Again, always in a weird attempt to try to make the character more realistic. But the more realistic version of the Punisher is Charles Bronson in Death Wish, so that made no sense. And then when they tried to make the character more superhero-like, of course they had to add a billion pouches, a billion belt, straps, and all that stuff. And essentially they made a design that was right out of the 90s. It wasn't in the 90s, but the design looked like what we had in the 90s. So that's pretty much it for the Netflix version of The Defenders. If you guys saw the teaser, what did you think of it, and are you looking forward to this series? So that's pretty much it for now, guys. So thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.